Good morning, everybody.
Correct.
I would like to request that when each of committee chairs make their reports this morning, that you give us an indication of whether you have reviewed your committee resolutions and whether you are going to recommend changes in those resolutions. Joe Hartman's been working hard on this project, and we'd like to make sure that that word is gotten out to each of you. And all it requires is that you look at your resolutions and determine if they need modification. Joe, do I have that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as we get started, we'll do that. Let's get started with bylaws. Bob Bauer.
I have nothing to report because we did not meet.
Get that call.
That was
all right. Thank you, Robert. Let's go ACC. Jim Miller.
If I can figure out how to turn this on.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, is it on? Okay. We always have two meetings each month between board reports. We only had two houses this past month, which is a back off, which I think is probably due somewhat to the cold weather. I don't know, but and we did move our meeting up one day to miss the funeral that was here. Everything is going pretty quiet, and but as it warms up, I think things will begin to pick up again.
Jim, and let me back up to Bob. Bob, have you looked at your committee resolution?
Yes, sir.
And
Many times.
do you anticipate any changes?
No, sir.
Okay.
I
and
think
Jim,
we took care of it last summer.
Okay, look, same sign. Jim, have you had a chance to look at your committee resolution for ACC?
Yes, and what we do is pretty cut and dried, and there's not many changes. We have not made any changes. I think Bev worked me over last year on that.
Okay,
and,
that's all we're asking is if you've looked at it and if you think you're going to make a recommendation for change.
It's satisfactory. Everything's satisfactory.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, we looked at our committee resolution this past year and made some minor changes, or major changes, depending on how you look at them. But anyway, we met yesterday. We had no ACEs, which is a first, so we're not spending any more money this month yet. We were fortunate to get the financials in at the 11th hour, and basic review of the maintenance and operation, cost of goods and expenses related thereto. Our bottom line is, for this account, for the 2 months of this fiscal year, we were $120,000 bottom line, which is $132,000 ahead of budget and $98,000 ahead of prior year. That's cutting to the very bottom line. As far as the capital reserve funds, we had a balance of $2,200,000 with outstanding commitments of $846,000. The road and drainage fund has a balance of $736,000 with commitments at this time of $263,000. All these numbers are very flexible, but moving every day. Other business, we looked at the update that we were looking for was a update on the investment policy that the board was looking into, and we were curious as to what the status is, and no one seems to know what the status of the new investment policy may be. I don't know, Dick, you weren't there?
I need a microphone. I just talked to the fellow that spoke to us, and obviously things get tangled up around holidays. He is still in the process of writing what he thinks would be a good investment policy for us. Once he's done with that, he'll bring it down and we'll hash it out and see what we think.
Yeah, I think we need to look at it because we are we're not in compliance with our policy at the present time, and we haven't been for some time. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware of that, and I'll constantly repeat it. The other thing,
And Bob, that will go to finance before it goes to the board in terms of a recommendation? Is
oh,
that-
yes.
Okay.
I would hope so. Hope we have an opportunity to look at it. I never know, you know. The committee approved a DCR to change the ACE form. With the new fund that came into existence in January, the new capital fund, it requires some minor changes to our ACE, and that's been submitted to Mary, and I'm sure she'll get it to the secretary in the near future. We did, as Finance Committee, review the ballot proposals for the pending election. We went through the bylaws changes, the new amenities, and assessment increase. And for those that don't know what's going on, I suggest you attend the town hall meeting tonight at 6 o'clock at the PAC Center. We spent a lot of time at the end of the meeting discussing our purchasing process. And after much discussion, the committee has recommended the board considering hiring somebody that would be dedicated to being a purchasing agent. And that's a strong recommendation from the Finance Committee. So that was it for yesterday.
Mr. President, I have a question for Bob, although it might be better posed to Michael, I'm not sure. Did I just dream this, or have we finally gotten a resolution on our IRS liability on the ACA?
I have to refer to either
Janice?
Michael or Janice. I think Janice, Michael.
Have we finally gotten a resolution on that?
No, sir. The IRS has just about a month ago just completed the form letter that they're going to be sending out with the bill for, I think, 2015, but we have not received an invoice yet. So we're now...
For 2015?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we owe for 2015, 16, and I'm have the reporting for 2017 is due at the end of this month. So.
All right.
Can you explain to the audience what we're talking about so people understand?
We have not provided health insurance to staff here under the ACA, and so under the ACA, up until Congress acted recently, we have some tax liability for the penalty for not providing health insurance. And currently, we've got, $400 or $450,000 set aside for that liability for years 2015, 16, and 17. So the IRS has never billed us for it up until now, I guess, and so we've got money set aside to pay that.
It's interesting to note in the columns you will see on the financials there is under the M&O account there is about $1 million sitting in there. Well, it's not just, it's committed. Most of that money is committed. I think last time I checked with Janice, there was about $200,000 really that was not committed. Is that a fair statement? So people look at that and say, oh, what are we going to do with all that money? Well, it's committed. You can't spend it if it's committed.
I have one more comment on that. If my discussions with Janice and management is indicating to me that the liability here is about $150,000 a year. So we're in arrears by 3 years, so we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 150. But we haven't been billed yet, so let's wait until we get the bill. But Bob Zimsky's absolutely correct. The amount that we show in that general fund is sort of not accurate if we put in all the things that we owe. And this ACA bill is just one of many other liabilities or accounts payables that we have in there that we haven't paid. So when we look at that general fund at the board meeting that shows in excess of $1 million, you have to take all of that into consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, and one more comment. President Trump signed an executive order which deleted the requirement for individuals, the mandate that individuals should, in fact, have insurance. But I don't think that executive order went to corporations that don't provide insurance. So I don't know that our burden has been reduced yet. You know, Congress is still working on it, President's still working on it.
And no matter what, that's not going to eliminate our liability for the last 3 years. Does that conclude your report, Robert? That's it. Okay, long-range planning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Long-range planning met on January the 8th. All members were present with the exception of Mr. Zemsky, who was not able to attend. Every time the Long-Range Planning Committee meets, we review the outstanding camp documents, and we'll continue to review those until a decision is made on them. There's some camp documents on this upcoming election, and once that decision is made, then we will close those documents. But and I know some of the committee chairs will be talking about some of their camps, like Goff will be talking about theirs in Marina, so I won't share that information. The one I would like to mention is Community Garden. That is going to become up and running here very soon. There's a website called ppoagardens.org where you can go out and you can take a look at the community gardens that we're going to have here in Pecan, and it's really very nice. Eric and Jimmy have done a great job on putting that website together, and thank you very much for doing that. There will be 135 wedges available in 27 keyhole garden areas, and the cost will be, is guesstimated it's going to be $25 a year. And then, you will be responsible for your little keyhole garden area, and you can plant pretty much anything you would like that's legal. So keep that in mind. And they hope to have the gardens up and running and selling those plots this spring. So really glad to see this one. Ray, I think it was Ray Lewis or someone brought this to the board several years ago. Maybe it was Rod Heitschmidt. So this has been a long time coming to realization. The other is the Back Circle project, and maybe, Michael, you can give us an update on that trellis. I know we've all been sitting and driving by and seeing it still laying there, but no progress. So can you give us an update on the trellis?
Daniel, could you provide a little more information? I know he started to deliver the trellis. As far as completion of the trellis, I think Daniel may have some more information.
I actually just met with Sam this morning. He brought another section over. He's looking to start erecting it soon. And he basically told me he will no longer be doing projects of this kind due to this one and another one that he took on. So it will be going up soon with our assistance. He does not have the equipment necessary due to all the additions that the Garden Club added to it to erect the additional weight that has been added to the structure. So we will assist in the erection of this structure.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. So we will be seeing that trellis come up soon. The other update for the board is that every year long-range planning provides a long-range planning report, and the long-range planning committee talked about this, and we feel that the one that was done last year still is viable, what's in there. However, we would like to do an addendum to some of the sections of that. And when the long-range planning committee report was designed in 2011, I think it wasn't intended that would be something that massive document would be updated and redone every year. It would be updated, but not completely redone. And I think we've kind of had to do some of that complete redoing because of some of the things that have gone on in long-range planning. But I think at this point we're pretty stable in terms of the future direction of long-range planning. But we will be updating sections, and we will have those for the board in May.
Mr. President, I'd like to just make a comment here based on what Daniel just reported about the trellis. Is that what it's called? It's a classic example of why we need a contract purchasing specialist on our staff to avoid these kinds of changes in the scope of the work and the cost after the fact. So Bob's comments are well-founded. Thank you.
And that ends the long-range planning report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Michael?
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's start out with grounds and Roger Merrill.
Good morning. The Grounds Committee met a regular time this month, and we did have one other resignation from the committee, but we also had a visitor, Lee Robinson, who has agreed to serve out the term of the one that had to resign, and that would be through April. And so we were thankful that we're still one member short. As far as our committee resolutions are concerned, we have made some changes in it recently, so we see no need to make any further changes. It's okay. If you've been down to the RV park, you've noticed that our maintenance crew has replaced all of the tables and grills. Is that correct, Daniel? You've got all those replaced? Most of them?
It should be completed today.
Yeah, they look really great, and it's a good addition to or an upgrade to that RV park. As most of you know, we've been working on a trail beside Plantation Drive. That project didn't make the cut on this current election cycle. So I think what's been recommended to me is that we go ahead and try to get data on the right-of-way and the location of the pavement within along Plantation Drive. And this trail project would probably not be available for funding maybe for 5 years. Yeah. So anyway, in the meantime, though, I think I suggest that Pecan needs to know to have that data on Plantation Drive. If we want to do anything to the pavement or widen it or anything, we'd need to know the location of the pavement within the easement. So I'm suggesting that maybe at this point, infrastructure take this project on to get that done. And I've been working with, or the committee actually has been working with Larry Turman, who's done some surveying for PPOA in the past, and he tells me that we do have a lot of data on the right-of-way, but in order to locate the pavement and the utilities, we'll have to have some surveying done. So if we want to spend the money to get that done, it'll probably take $4,000 or $5,000 to have that, to get that data complete on Plantation Drive.
I would think that the LiDAR data we have would take care of that just very nicely.
The what data?
LiDAR. They photographed pecan plantation from an airplane, have very accurate data.
Right, but we have to survey to find out where the property lines are, where the easement specifically is. There's a lot of buried utilities, power lines.
I understand that, but I was just addressing the comment that we need to find out where the pavement is, and the LiDAR data.
Well, we know where the pavement is. We don't know where the right-of-way is.
I'm sorry, the pavement within the right-of-way. Actually, Larry tells me that there's at least one place where it appears that the pavement is outside of the right-of-way. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
yeah, the pavement.
yeah, let me, what we discovered with the grounds committee is that as we're looking at that, we assumed originally that we just assumed the road followed the easement, and it did not.
The middle
And-
line of the easement.
Right, the middle line. So we assumed that, well, all we got to do is it's going to be very simple. And what we've discovered is that's not true. When they built that road, for whatever reason, they didn't follow that. And so that's why we have to have a survey to figure out exactly where it is, where the easement is in consideration to the road.
And the developer's support, have you had any interaction with the developer about this?
You might ask Daniel. I think he's been kind of heading that up. And I like your grin, Daniel.
We've had no success in obtaining any survey information from the developer at this time.
I'm just curious, you think that they'll be supportive, or are they going to be an obstructionist in this project?
They are supportive as far as trails are concerned within Pecan. Their main concern is that we have money earmarked for the trails because there's been so many discussions with them about trails for the last 10 or 12 years. They're basically tired of talking about it, and they want to see some money put up to designated for trails.
Okay. I don't know what that means anymore, but go ahead.
Well, they do have a survey of that easement, I believe. Is that correct, Daniel? And yeah, I don't know if we can buy it or we have to get our own. But anyway, that's all I have on that. We have one other project we're working on, and that is a kayak access to the river at the bridge that we're working on to make it to provide a good way for people to get kayaks down to the river. We're working with the Fly Fishing Club, and we're hoping to have that done pretty shortly. It's not going to require any money, particularly. It's going to require some time from our maintenance crew to get to clear some area there, but I think that'll be a nice addition to the river. And I believe that's all we have this meet.
Any other comments or questions?
My only comment is someone needs to take ownership of requesting the money for a survey, so don't let that one just slide away, because sometimes things just slide away.
Sure.
Thank you, Roger. Eric, infrastructure.
Okay, the infrastructure met on January 8th, and we did have a quorum. I don't have any changes to the resolution committee, so we're good there. The main purpose of our meeting this month was to listen to the initial presentation by Half on the 4 drainage areas that we had asked them to analyze and prepare animations for. So those 4 areas were South Longwood, East Wedgefield, the Woodlawn area, and the Monticello Circle. The main goal of their analysis was to eliminate the overtopping of the roads when there were large rain events, and that's pretty much what they've done. They presented each of these areas individually, and we had comments and corrections, so they've gone back and are, preparing a final report for us. I haven't received that just yet. The initial value, they put an estimated cost on each one of these, and the total for this, I don't know that it's really accurate at this point since we don't have the final, but it started out, it's at $1.8 million for all 4 areas. But again, we haven't done the final review of that, but I think, that's going to be a high number is what the committee was thinking. I don't think if any questions specifically on those drainage areas, I don't think I wasn't planning on doing any more detail on that. The other things that we talked about or finished up on were the front entrance in the bypass, or the Westover bypass. There's just a few minor things to do there. The parking lot is the area of the pavement by the guard shack there still has to be repaired again. It's still collecting water. And then the Westover bypass, the roadway striping hasn't been done yet, and we're still waiting on that. As well, there's a re-hydromulched. The first pass on the hydromulching didn't take, so we were going to redo that. The next thing we talked about was prioritizing the road projects, the repaving and rebuilding of the roads. And I don't know if people noticed all the white powder that was showing up on Wedgefield, almost the entire length. That was the foundation coming up through cracks, and that was apparently due to the freezing and the rain weather that we had. So Wedgefield wasn't even really on our list. We had a list of 5 roads that we were going to get, in the queue to be repaved. So it looks like we're going to be moving Wedgefield up to the top of the list. So we're still looking at that. That's pretty much it.
Any other comments, questions for infrastructure? Let's move on to wildlife, and Vance Blaylock.
Good morning. First, I want to apologize to the board and to management for being out of pocket for the first half of this month. In addition to our secretary being not attending the last meeting, I didn't appoint someone to give you the minutes, and I do apologize for that. Our meeting was held on the 12th at 8:30. Recording secretary was one of the absentees. We did have a quorum. We had a visitor, Steve Bunkowski. We had a member resign. The Mary Lou Woods, who coordinates our articles submitted to the column, has been doing an excellent job and was commended, and has put forth the idea of reprinting the August deer trapping article or deer management article again this coming February, since once a year printing of the deer management articles did not get read by the majority of our residents. The deer trapping as of the 12th was 141 deer out of the 250 target. Daniel, have we had any addition to that?
We added 9 deer.
9 deer. So that brings us up to 150, so we're 100 shy, and I think that may be as close as we've gotten to any of our trapping goals in the last several years. We discussed the location of traps, which seems to be a hot topic among our residents, and we on the roads or close to roads that the deer are used to seeing vehicular traffic is the best place to locate traps to be effective. We had, as of the 12th of January, we had 2 auto deer strikes, which is phenomenally low for it being during the rut and the deer being very active. Any other since then that you know of?
I had 2 more since last meeting.
So 4 is still a fairly good number for rut and just after the rut. Hog, we had reduced all hog activity. We did discuss the ineffectiveness of traps. Seems like when we locate a trap to where the hogs are frequenting, they stop coming to that location because of something new and strange, such as a trap. Alabama and Texas, those states are going to test a new poison this coming spring. Texas will be using it in West Texas, and the test mainly deals with the transmitting the poison to secondary animals. Okay, the fly fishing club has decided to organize and ask our support in a Brazos River pecan cleanup. And I'm not sure the particulars of it, but I'm sure it's going to be handled something like a float down the Brazos picking up trash. And we might put a little note out to our residents that along their property, if they would police their own riverbank area, that sure would help the group that's looking forward to cleaning up our river frontage. And with that being said, I just want to add a caveat to some talk about 70% of our residents not liking or agreeing with our deer management program. Just saying that the majority of the Wildlife Committee is not in favor of this deer management program either, but until the state approves a different trapping method that is cost effective, we're going to stay and keep recommending our netting. That concludes the wildlife.
Mr. President, if I could ask a question. The answer, you talked about the articles Mary Lou has written. I would suggest she take all the articles that she's written and post them on your website, because there have been some wonderful articles about wildlife, our procedures. She's a great writer. I think that really needs to get put on our website if it's not there already.
Well, Mary Lou is our coordinator. She has written some, but not all of those articles, but I will pass your praise on to her. And we'd like to open submission of articles to all residents if they have a particular favorite animal, creature, flea, insect, whatever.
Mr. President, I have a comment, if I may. I'd like to address this to Daniel. Daniel, I think the budget for deer management this year is $75,000. Is that correct? Right, and we have a 250 deer head objective. And what is the per, is it 175 or 200? 200 per deer, is that correct? So it looks like we're going to be coming in under that budget, is that correct?
Yes, we will definitely be under the deer management budget, or the wildlife management budget.
Okay, fine. That's what I wanted to...
And that budget was reduced this year from 100 down to 75, and then we're not using all that 75. So we will be reducing it again after reviewing our process at the beginning of the April New Year of the committee.
Daniel, when do we stop trapping?
The last day we can trap is March 31st at midnight. The last traps have to be gathered up and gone. But we will actually be ending our season a little sooner. I believe February 23rd will be the absolute last day, as the contractor has other obligations.
I'll have another comment on this. By the way, Vance, my comments here are not to disparage what you guys do in the Wildlife Committee, because I attend some of those meetings, and you guys do a terrific job, and all of us up here support that. As a board member, my intention here is to keep counting the beans so that we, we keep the cost as reasonable as we can, but still stay effective. And I think Daniel's doing a hell of a job too. So thank you all for what you do for wildlife.
I appreciate your comments, and if we can get the rogue element of residents not to interfere, that would greatly reduce the cost in that area.
Thank you. Mr. President, Vance, have you heard on the Next Door Pecan, which had an article by a gentleman that said that he had killed 10 hogs? They did not define on where, and I'm just curious, have anybody on the committee heard? I haven't.
Well, I just got back from the Caribbean.
Sorry.
And this is my first full day back, so I have already apologized for not answering emails. I haven't received any phone calls, so I'm behind the curve in that part. My wife did mention something about it, someone killing deer and hogs and looking for locations to continue.
Yeah.
That fits right in with what our game warden said is the most effective way to handle hogs. Elimination with firearms, that pressure intense, and kept up is the only way to reduce hog population.
Okay, I was just curious if you knew, had any of the committee come back to you and said, hey,
You're going to have to stay curious.
okay. Story of my life.
Ray Lewis, thank you, Vance. Appreciate that. Ray Lewis, Airport.
The Airport Committee met at its normal time of January 10th with a quorum. Had a couple of visitors, very welcome. I want to thank the board for approving the 5-year contract for our FAA GPS approach. It's making good progress. We reported at our last meeting, as we had told earlier, that the FAA has agreed to accept this approach and design it themselves at no cost to us, with us only paying for the cost to actually fly and survey and maintain the approach. So it's a huge savings. If we went to them, it was reported at our meeting that if we went to them and asked them to do that independent, the cost would be $50,000 plus the maintenance down the road, and we just would not be able to afford to do that. So that's a huge savings for Pecan and a great addition to the safety and amenity in Pecan. We are about to go forward with the renovation of Plainview Park vote within the committee. We agreed to defer until this next meeting and left ourselves a deadline to make a decision on the location. We were reported at our last meeting that the bid packages will be ready to release at that time, and we will take that vote and make a decision at this next meeting.
Ray, when you get a final decision, that comes back to the board would have to approve that?
The board will have to approve the final, yes, it's in the budget, but it's like any other budgeted expense. Just because it's in the budget, you still have to approve going forward.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, now, we budgeted $89,000 for that.
No,
we approved the additional?
No, you budgeted $140,000 for it.
So we approved that additional, okay. All right.
And Daniel very wisely has used his experience, and anyway, Daniel has very wisely pointed out to the board that some other people have been able to build pavilions cheaper than the one that we originally had, because we had a recommended 115-mile-an-hour wind load that needed to be certified. We are taking Daniel's advice and exploring the possibility of a weld-up and a lower wind loading, which would be more standard, I believe, within the area outside here, but still safe. So we believe, and nothing's done until it's done, but we believe we'll be able to do it well under that budget, or within that budget.
May I make a comment real quick? The wind loading was a certification. The fact that we dropped the certification requirement doesn't mean we're getting a flimsier building. We'll probably get the same strength. Is that correct?
No. No. You're right about the fact that the certification raised the cost greatly, but we also had a higher than previous wind requirement, and so we went to the consistent with the rest of them. But we also, if we have a weld-up building built in place, it will be more difficult to get that a certified structure, but that's what's been built all around Pecan, and no one's had a problem with that. And so that's what you're talking about. So there's actually two effects. Any other questions on that? I have some other points. There was a recommendation within the airport committee to improve safety, and because some people liked it at the airport, to leave the runway lights on low for a period of time. The airport committee did not take a position on the long-term aspect of that, but we did agree to do a short-term trial to get feedback from residents. Quite honestly, we failed to recognize when we approved that the windsock lights, which are elevated and right in some people's backyard, would be very offensive to some of the residents. And so when you leave the runway lights on low, you leave the windsock lights on, and they come on high all the time. And so having done that, we recognize the problem and have corrected it and turn those lights back off. Nothing is official until the meeting when we vote on it, but I expect that the committee will approve going back. We've already gone back to the normal procedure in our actions at the airport, but officially we'll have to review it at our next meeting to make that official. It was reported that taxiway A, I believe it is, the far southern end is closed due to hog activity. Daniel, if you talked to the people down there and got that back open, I didn't get a chance to go down there today to check.
They're in the process of restoring it. They were both the homeowners there were setting notification, and I did speak with them on the phone, and they will restore it and keep it open from now on.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. One more issue I guess I ought to deal with is the article in the Hood County News on the deer trapping. Just to go on record, some people were quoted that don't get confused with facts and data and make some statements that are rather strongly opposed by the airport committee and by others. This location is safe for trapping deer for the airport. We put it in a place where prior to putting the trap there was a very large pecan tree that for decades reached up much, much higher than the deer nets do, and no one complained about that. We brought that tree down only because of the possible interference with a upcoming approach for instruments, which is not yet active. So the net is much, much lower than the tree was. We also Daniel talked to state representatives who are in charge of airport like ours or others, and he said it should not be a problem. He gave him the specific dimensions and locations. He also talked to the heads of both of the helicopter services that fly EMS in here, and they both assured us that A, they would tell their pilots about it, but B, it was so far away from their landing zone that it was absolutely not a safety risk. And I have to give Daniel kudos again for doing a very good job of interacting with the writer of that article. Unfortunately, they didn't quote him correctly in many cases, as you would expect when you do any article like that. We also are getting guff that we might attract deer to the airport and actually have the adverse effect of making it less safe. The experts tell us that short-term deer trapping does not change the traffic pattern of deer. What it does is it takes deer that are passing through there and gets them to stop under the net so they can be trapped. If you left it there long-term, you might change the traffic pattern. But we are not bringing deer into that area and causing more to come here. We're actually improving it, and we've looked at other locations, and the committee looked at other locations before approving this site, and it was determined that for the long-term safety of the airport, this is the best place to do it. So I think the article, and as we've known in some of the votes that we took around here, this is, I think, a bunch of boo about nothing, and so I'm really disappointed that the article was done, but I'm also very thankful for Daniel for interfacing with them and doing a good job of trying to get facts in front of the people. That concludes my report.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have a comment. I'd like to bring up a financial situation that's favorable to the air park, and it has to do with our utilization. We were over 40% in December in our the capacity of the inn. And a lot of that can be attributable. I was at the Finance Committee meeting yesterday, and this was discussed, by the way. A lot of that increase can be attributed to the air park people that had an event that loads up our hotels for the weekend, every room. And not only that, it is also reflected in our food and beverage numbers, which are very high for the month. And Mr. Treasurer, by the way, you're going to see in our financial report this month that we're much, much better off out of the gate for the first couple of months than we were last year. If you recall, we had an issue with that. So in all respect to the air park people, they take a lot of heat because it's a small group, but they do a lot. Not only in bringing business to this place, but what they do for the community, giving airplane rides to the people, the air shows they put out. So I'd like to just point that out in their favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cote. Mr. Miller?
I'd like to make one comment after looking at the location of that net down there at the airport. If an airplane's going to get tangled up in that thing, that's one of the least problems they have at that point.
Yeah, I'd like to be a little bit more specific. What Bob Cote was referring to was that Ray Lewis and a couple other individuals hosted the Southwest Bonanza reunion here at Air Park. And it did, in fact, fill up our rooms and helped our food service. It was a great event for Pecan Plantation.
Any other comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to Gordon Johnson and Ty Harper for security report.
Thank you very much. One of the first things I want to say is we got the news that the gentleman sitting to my left is going to be leaving here the middle of February, and we want to thank you for what you've done for us. Good luck and Godspeed. We had, first of all, a resolution change. Yes, we do have a change for our resolution that we will propose with Joe Hartman, and I'll be meeting with him about that. I'm not really sure why minutes have not appeared on the web page. I will talk with Mary about me being able to. They are on the web page? Oh, isn't that amazing? Because I was catching some flack at our last meeting that they weren't on the web page. So. Surprise, surprise. Anyhow, I've appointed a new secretary for our committee, and also happens to be the chair, because nobody wants to be secretary. So we'll take care of that with Mary. Thank you very much. We had one appeal that was made by a member who was stopped for speeding after she explained the circumstances of being waved around slower traffic and then getting around that slower traffic and slowing back down to the recommended airspeed, I almost said, recommended speed. She was ticketed for having gone 46 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. But she explained that she saw a vehicle coming toward her as she was trying to pass this gentleman who was waving her around. And we ended up then saying that we could understand, and the ticket was then reduced, or it was denied. I mean, it was expelled. One of our committee members is also Crime Watch, and he has several people who are working with him to improve, recruit, and then improve what it is that Crime Watch is currently doing. And I know that our president is also a member of Crime Watch now, and I'm grateful for that. It's an activity that I think is very important for people in our community to understand that there are concerned citizens who are willing to take some of their nighttime to get in their vehicles and drive around the plantation to observe activity or lack thereof. Most of it is lack thereof, activity on the plantation in the after midnight hours. But if anyone is concerned, and I would hope that people viewing this would know that if you're willing to complain, then why not be willing to also serve? And talk with Mark Pump or David Narducci and volunteer to become a member of Crime Watch. It's frustrating that people will complain but won't step to the plate and offer their time and their talents to be a part of something that we think is beneficial for our community. We have that resolution that I will talk with Joe about that will be proposed. The new gate system is, to us on our committee, is still only a rumor. What we would like to recommend is that when that new gate system, calling folks in, et cetera, is going to be put in place, it would be a little bit late to expect people to understand how to use it. So we would propose that there be a video, something put on the web page, or give us some training as a committee, and maybe the board, and maybe open it up to a time here at either the PAC or here at the club, so people would be able to sit down and hear how to use that system, because it's going to be far different than what we currently have. And we would hope that that would be something that could be taken place. We had a lengthy discussion.
Wait, excuse me.
Sir?
Michael, can you give us a report on when that is going to be installed?
The hardware is ordered. Now they have asked for our membership information to load onto the hardware. As soon as the hardware is loaded, then they'll install the hardware, and then the process will move rather rapidly after that. But I believe, Ty would know a little bit more, but I believe we can certainly provide videos as part of the education process.
Good. Yeah, we've talked with Ty about that as well, but I just wanted to be sure that the board understood the expressed concern from some of our committee members. There was a lengthy presentation concerning speed limits, and this is one of my least favorite subjects, because no matter what you say, you've always got someone who's got a different opinion, and they're usually louder than I am, if you can believe that. And one of the concerns that we have is we've danced around that subject for quite a while. I think we're ready to do what the board has asked us to do, and to come back to you with a resolution concerning what would happen, what we would recommend be happening with the speed limits. One of the things we've talked with Ty about is that we would encourage more enforcement of speeding on the plantation with the current speed limits that we already have posted, and that people understand. Somebody suggested we put up more speed limit signs. Well, that doesn't seem to work either. We know, everyone knows that there are 5 different roads on the plantation that have a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. The rest are supposed to be 25, unless posted otherwise. That hasn't really gotten through to some folks that live on the plantation, and they're not all new members either. You know, one person that was stopped recently had been living here for 14 years and still didn't realize that it was 25 miles an hour in the place that was not posted, because it doesn't have to be posted. It's 35 unless, unless posted otherwise, it's 35 miles an hour. 25 miles an hour, yeah. We had a review of the duties of security officers. We also asked Ty to give us some input, because we had a member that was wondering about what the pursuit policy was on the plantation. If someone is speeding, what's the recommendation for the security officer in seeing someone that's speeding? Well, we understand that when when the radar locks onto someone, it's usually someone who's approaching the vehicle. And it's not someone going away from you, it's someone coming toward you, that radar then works to record that speed. So the police, the security person has to find a safe place to turn around and be able to then pursue that person with lights on, and hopefully that person will stop. We have been assured that there will be never any speeding that would endanger the lives of anyone, whether it would be the person being pursued or the security officer himself or herself, or anyone who living in the community that would be victimized by a crash of a vehicle that was driving too fast. So the pursuit policy is really just using common sense, not going 75 miles an hour on the plantation, in other words. As usual, I've always asked the guests who are attending our meetings if they have any comments or questions, and we had 4 guests at this last meeting who were asked to participate by offering their opinions or asking their questions, offering their criticism, whatever it might have been. So we tend to have an open discussion at the end of the meeting, and I'm grateful that that worked out well this past time. That's all I have, unless there are any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? If not, Ty Harper. Just would like to echo Gordon's comments. Ty, thank you very much for your 10 years of service. We appreciate it.
Thank you. December was a busy month. It's a holiday month, so we have a lot of activity starting out December 3rd. We got a call from Pecan Foods at 4 p.m. Reporting that they had found a packet of white substance at the gas pumps. They felt like it might be an illegal substance. Of course, that's not our property to patrol, and they were referred to call the Sheriff's Department. At 4:15, we had a report of damaged vandalism to a vehicle in somebody's driveway. At 5 o'clock, we had a call from the game warden for requesting security go to the river area near the archery range for a report of an individual releasing tilapia into the river. That individual was later located. And then at 5:30, we had a report of a fall on Glen Eagles Drive. There was 5 people on a golf cart, the 5th one hanging off the back, and they made a sharp turn, and that person fell off of the golf cart and had to be taken to the hospital for injuries. And that all happened in one day after 4 o'clock. So that was a big start to the month. On the 4th, we had a report of a vehicle that was had items stolen from it, and it was left unlocked overnight. On the 7th, we had a report from the Granbury Independent School District that one of their school kids was locked out of the house, and asked security to check on them at 6:30 at night, and they were found to be at a neighbor's house. On the 10th, we had a crash on Ravenswood. 2 mailboxes were run over, and the individual was taken to a hospital. Said that he dropped something on the floor, was reaching down to pick it up, and caused a crash. On the 11th, we had a report of motorcycles on the golf course at 7:10 p.m. Of course, we were not able to catch a motorcycle on the golf course. On the 14th, we had a report of a vehicle sitting in the road at the intersection of Pleasant Hill and Wedgefield. It turned out to be the vehicle had just broke down, and a tow truck was on the way. On the 23rd, we got a tone out from the Sheriff's Department that there was a collision between an aircraft and a vehicle, which sounds pretty bad. And when we arrived, that's not what it was at all. It turned out that it was an airplane had made a sudden stop on a taxiway, and it caused to tip up, and the propeller hit the ground and caused some damage to the but there was no injuries. On the 26th, we had a report of a single vehicle crash on Monticello, where 2 mailboxes again were ran over. The individual driving was asked what happened. He said he didn't know what happened. And there were no injuries in that. On the 27th, we had a report that 4 days earlier there were 2 vehicles that were items were stolen out of, but the vehicles were left unlocked. Everybody be sure and lock your vehicles in your driveway, just for safety measures. And then on the 29th, we had a report of a dog chasing horses over off of Claremont. We identified the dog owner, and they said it wouldn't happen again. In December, we had 4,901 calls to the security office, 6 reports of lost or loose dogs, 9 barking dogs, 2 animal reports, 3 vehicle crashes, 5 mailboxes damaged, 4 items reported lost or stolen, 3 driving complaints, 5 suspicious activity reports, 5 parking complaints, and 3 gunshot reports. We had 52 citations in December. 41 of them were first-time speeders, 4 barking dogs. 3 of them, it was their second-time speeding tickets. So that you can see if you get a speeding ticket, it looks like people slow down. We had 34 of them on Plantation, 5 on Ravenswood, 2 on Monticello, 2 on Wedgefield, and the rest on varying streets. 29 of the citations were to members, 6 to contractors, 3 to vendors, 1 to an employee, and 13 to guests. We had a total of 55 calls that were reported to the Hood County Sheriff's Department. Of those 55 calls, 9 of them were public services or telephone calls, 4 of them were walk-in to the law enforcement center, and 6 of them were close patrols, probably relating with the suicide threats and criminal mischief. And other than that, that's the end of my report. If anybody has any questions?
Todd, could you just touch on the increase in patrols that we're doing right now?
Yes, we have completed the training on 2 additional security officers. They have completed and gotten their pocket card from the Private Security Bureau and are fully trained on how to patrol and operate the radar system. They are also gate staff, so it's given us a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more opportunity to add more patrols, and we're using all 3 of our patrol cars strategically, trying to get people to slow down on their own by parking vehicles that may or may not be manned on the side of the road. And that's 2 of the things that we're trying to do to help people to slow down.
Excuse me. With respect to the strategic location of the vehicles, when they're manned, do they have to be manned by a security officer, or can a Crime Watch member man the vehicle without taking any action?
Because the vehicle is marked, clearly marked, that says security on it, it needs to be a security officer inside there. If it wasn't somebody that's a official security officer, they would be acting as a security officer, which is against the law.
On another matter, I asked earlier in the year to see if we could improve or reduce the violations by contractors parking on the wrong side of the street and not placing their cones out as required. Has there been any positive action in that regard?
Yeah, we've just been on high alert. We're looking for that. We've tried to make sure that contractors are aware to putting their cones out, and keeping, when we see it, we'd be sure and pull over and stop them and let them know that they need to get that out, their cones out there.
Yeah, I hope that works. I know that your successor that'll be a problem for your successor, but for bicycle riders, for example, it becomes a hazard. So I hope we can pursue that. And also, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your service, Ty, and wish you good luck in your next position.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Ty, I read somewhere that the mailbox damage out here annually runs about $36,000 a year. Is that anything like correct?
I have no idea. I haven't put a dollar to it.
I understand somebody is offering mailbox insurance out here now. It's a good moneymaker, apparently.
Any other comments for security? Mr. Turner?
A couple of days ago, and I know this is something, if security had been able to see it, it probably would put a stop to it. But I was going down a particular street, and as I was turning to another street, a golf cart came by, pulling, and the driver apparently looked to be about 12 or 14, number one, pulling two kids on skateboards. And as I started to turn, the first kid took to the grassy area and took a fall, but at least he hit the grass and obviously was not hurt. But the other one almost ran over the cart. And I would suggest, I don't know how you put a stop to that, except for people just to use a little common sense, which apparently is kind of a rare thing sometimes here.
It's really hard to fix stupid, but if we get reports, we try to get there and talk with the kids, but we hear that happen from time to time. Usually it's in the summer, but if they're doing that in 20-degree weather, we really know that they have some issues. But yeah, if anybody sees anything like that, be sure and give us a call, and we'll try to get there and talk to them.
Well, I think the same experience that you have with motorcycles and golf carts on the golf courses, by the time you get there, they're history. So,
absolutely.
There's been a coyote that has gone down our driveway, and I live on Divot Street, twice now. I saw him in late January, and then also in early February. But it happens about 1:30 in the afternoon. So, is there more? I mean, to me, that's just not normal to have a coyote, number one, out that time of the day, and number two, I don't know what we as residents can do about it. I mean, I got outside and I was chasing it, and my husband was like, "Are you crazy?" And I was like, "Well, he wasn't supposed to be on my property, so I had to do something." But is there anything going on with our coyote population?
That would be something for the Wildlife Committee. I mean, as far as security goes, in our communication with the animal control, which, we're basically out in the country, they just say stay away from wild animals, and, if you have a concern, I would report it to the Sheriff's Department, but here's Wildlife Committee.
No comment.
Coyotes, as with deer, the females do come into season, and at different stages, the male gets excited and will go looking. It's a hormonal thing, and it can happen during the day. And later in the spring, you will actually see mothers out hunting during the day to help feed their pups. But although they usually mostly hunt at night in packs, it's not unusual to see them during the day. We'll have singles.
So we can't issue them citations, right?
You can try if they'll stop for the lights.
Any other comments? Ms. Franson?
You haven't come over and killed it yet, so I guess that's what I'm looking for. But anyway, maybe an article about the coyote would be good, because we are seeing them during the day. So.
Thank you, Ms. Franson. Anybody else have anything for safety and security? If not, Ms. Brenda Palmer, Entertainment and Sports and Rec.
Well, this is going to be short and sweet. Sports and Rec did not meet in January, and our next meeting will be February the 6th. No committee resolution changes need to be made, as we did that a year ago. I'm on Sports and Rec at the moment. Okay. Entertainment. Now on entertainment. No committee changes need to be made to entertainment either, because we already made those as well. The New Year's Eve dinner dance was a big success. There was over 200 people attended, which is a very good number, and everyone seemed to have a marvelous time. No negative remarks were noted. And the main thing that we're heading for right now is Mardi Gras this Saturday. And since I have all the board members here at one time, I would like to see if I couldn't get a head count as to how many will be attending, because we have not been notified, so we do need to know. So before you leave, yes, I know Mr. Kamen is going, but before y'all leave today, please let me know if you will be attending. A lot of new twists this year. One that I'm very happy to announce is Mr. Shad Ramsey. I don't know how many of y'all know him, but he is the photographer for most of the big events in Granbury, and he has volunteered to come and do the photos for that night. So we're very fortunate to have him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does for us. And Miss Faye Landum, who is also from Granbury. She is a New Orleans native, and she's with the Opera Guild, and she will be coming doing the judging. So again, we have a very wonderful expert that will be doing that this year for the tables. And our next meeting for entertainment will be the 7th, and that's it.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Palmer? If not, Mike Brown and Golf.
Good morning. Just right off the top, we anticipate no changes to our committee resolution. We met, of course, in December, and I was out of town at the last board workshop. Most of the discussion in the December meeting was about the golf pavilion, and we thank you very much for the donation of the land. And as you can see, we've already started the project, bringing the dirt in. I think we're at the correct level with our dirt right now, and it just needs to be smoothed out, and we probably will see the concrete guy here in a couple of weeks to start pouring the concrete. The total bid for the pavilion stands at $29,580 for the building itself and the concrete. And we'll be proceeding as quickly as possible. Hopefully we'll have it up by April 1st. The third item we discussed, which was in our January meeting, was re-irrigation of the golf course. And Michael Underwood has done an ACE. I'm not sure where it is in the process right now. It's a bid from IPD, which was the only company to answer our bid request for planning and design, and the range of that is $22,500 to $26,500, and I'm sure that'll be coming to the board soon. And that's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Brown? If not, Jerry Cotter in the Marina.
Good morning. Thank you. The first thing is, Joe, we don't have any changes in the resolution. The marina, at the last meeting, the big issue was talking about the new Marina Grill and Store, and we had a long discussion regarding whether or not we wanted to split the store from the grill, because we would need two different liquor licenses to do that. The results of looking back a few years regarding the amount of sales on packaged goods at the packaged liquor goods at the store show there's been a big decline. So the committee really is going to go forward with a recommendation to the board that we go forward with just a single store and a single license for the store to sell individual across-the-counter beer and wine and whatever else we can get the license. So
the grill.
The grill. I'm sorry, grill. I'll get there in a minute. So that's what we talked about there. We also went forward and talked about the plan for the store. The grill. The grill was originally, the original plan was much bigger than what we could support, so we've got that pared down quite considerably. We also discussed the fact that since this is more of a food and beverage issue, that this particular grill project moved to the Food and Beverage Committee, and the Marina Committee provides support for that in any way we can. And so Lou has been working with, as well I have too, with Brian Gaffin, the architect. The other issue we discussed was the new dock and gas pump, and all the material and stuff is out there, and he's just waiting on, I guess, to get started when the weather's right.
They've started demoing the old dock. It'll probably be gone by the end of the day today.
Okay.
And I'm assuming they'll start installing the new dock tomorrow.
Okay. I knew it was going to be soon because I was just down there the other day. Other than that, that's where we are with this, and we'll be participating with Lou this afternoon with the prep.
This is primarily for Daniel, but yesterday when Jerry and I were out there, the north wind was whipping up pretty good, which is right smack down on the dock area. How much wind will that dock be able to withstand without having any movement? Do we have any idea?
I don't have the exact engineer's specifications, but I know the company that is building our dock built the BRA dock, and they have had zero issues with their dock.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cotter. Brian Rogers in Communications.
Thank you. The Communications Committee, I do expect that we will have some changes to the committee resolution. We still need to discuss them out with the committee. We met December the 20th. We did have a quorum present. As far as the Columns magazine goes, we once again express our sincere appreciation to what Daryl Davis did for us. I think we're still learning just all the tasks that he covered, and it's staggering to think that one individual accomplished what he did on a routine basis. I also want to send out just a huge thank you to Kevin Keechler and Lisa Starkweather for volunteering their times and effort and making their employees available to help get out the columns for the February issue. Right now, it does look like it's going to be on time. Obviously, Mother Nature with an ice storm at the wrong time could preclude that, but right now things are looking pretty good there. Do want to encourage the folks that are contributing articles to keep that up as far as the time review, and also remind them that February is a short month, so you'll have just a little bit less time than normal to get that article in. Next, we have hired a person on the trial basis, the 90-day trial basis, to fill Daryl's position. She started, I think it was a week ago yesterday, a week ago today, as I recall, there, and getting feet on the ground. But going on that, interface with other committees, frankly, not a lot happened the past month due to the circumstances there. Facebook page, we do continue to gain likes and followers and see folks that are not members of Pecan Plantation checking in, following the page, liking the page. A couple of questions from folks I did not recognize as members have been posted and responded to. And as far as content, the Facebook page and so forth, we do need to still get content from clubs and groups, and want to get back to working on that. And that concludes the report.
Any other comments or questions for Communications? If not, Lou Turner. Yes, Ms. Palmer.
Yeah, but her name is Judith Bandy.
I just want to comment that the other day I went into the website and found it to be so much easier to navigate than the old one, and it certainly has a much better appearance as well.
Mr. Turner, would you like to continue with your food and beverage report?
Thanks for asking. Our committee met on January the 9th. All were present with one exception. A couple of things that we addressed and are in the process of proceeding is a review of the dress code for our facilities. Not so much that they're inappropriate, because we think generally they are okay. The issues that we believe would need to be addressed is that to ensure that our members are aware of what the dress codes are, and then that we work a little harder to enforce them, particularly as they work toward the terrace room. The committee also did an in-depth review and has proposed has already proposed to management and to the board to eliminate the order gratuity in our food and beverage operations, and ask management to determine the impact as we look to a favorable response for the board to approve that recommendation. We spent a lot of time in discussing preparation of the town hall meeting, and we will see how that goes. We also are in the process of developing a plan that will be presented for the board's consideration at the next workshop. Will be our plan to move forward on the wet-dry issue for our food and beverage licensing process. And so we intend to pursue that action again this year. As you recall, because of a number of issues, we had such a short window last year that we just didn't have enough time to get the signatures by adhering to a different plan. This year we'll have 60 days to do it instead of 10 days. So that's a big impact. We did update our resolution last year and see no need to address it again this year. That's all I have.
Any other comments, questions for Mr. Turner? As far as membership, we have added 3 members this year, so we're +3 year-to-date. So we're off to a little bit of a slow start, but I think with the increased, as the weather warms up, we'll see some more housing starts, and that membership number will be increasing.
What is that number right now?
Janice, you recall 3,053 members, 3,053. And Mr. President, that concludes our committee reports for this month.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah.
This is for the people that are going to be presenting at the town hall and for our walkthrough. If you could just wait for a few minutes after the meeting is adjourned so we could talk just for a second. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I was asked about a board meeting, a brief board meeting. Are we going to do that immediately after the, and should we go to the conference room? Is that what you're, how do you want to handle that? Okay, so board, we're going to, first of all, talk about the presentation before you leave, and then the board will adjourn up to the conference room for a brief meeting. Does that work? Okay. Yeah, we have a question from the audience.
Yes, I'd like to make one announcement that the President of the Board, Robert Kamen, will be speaking on the second Wednesday of February on the PPO board and our State of the Union. And then Mr. Sprinkle will be the host, announcing the candidates for the new board on the third Wednesday of February. Thank you.
And I'd like to recognize Ron Liddell is here, one of our candidates. I don't see any others. I don't want to miss anybody this time. Ron, thanks for coming. Okay, we're adjourned.